Us back at the Meggs Point Nature Center. Really excited to be bringing you another one of my favorite animals, and it's in this little bucket right here. Before we get into that, I want to remind everyone that Connecticut State Parks are open, so please come and visit the parks. Our facilities are closed still, so unfortunately you can't come and see these animals, but soon we hope that you'll get to come and see these animals. I really miss interacting with all of the people that enjoy the Nature Center, so can't wait till we can at least have some limited programs coming up in the near future. I want to remind everyone that you need to maintain social distance, and the social distance for this animal, it's 115 of these. You have to keep 115 of these between you and someone else that is not in your household. So make sure you keep that social distance. If you're not able to, make sure you wear your mask. Okay? So, the animal that we're talking about, because there's 115 of them, they're really small, it is a fiddler crab. Can you guys see that little guy? Look at how small this crab is. Now, they will get a bit larger than this. They max out at about 16 millimeters, or that's like 1.5 inches. So it'll get a little bit bigger than this one right here. Now, really interesting thing about the fiddler crab is the male has that super large claw. The female, both claws are the same size, and they're the size of this small one here. All right. The male has one very large claw and one very small claw. That large claw can be up to 50% of his body weight is just in that claw. That's really amazing, okay? They're egg layers, okay? So the female can lay 18,000 eggs, all right? That's a lot of eggs. And it only takes 2 weeks for them to gestate. So once they've been fertilized, in 2 weeks, you're going to have thousands of these little crabs swimming around. Like most crabs, they are planktonic when they start out. So they're swimming through the water, and then they eventually settle to the bottom. These crabs live in marshes, so they like to dig holes in the mud. And they will burrow down into the mud. The male digs the hole. The female doesn't dig the hole, and then he sits out in front of the hole and he waves his big claw, okay? Now that claw is going to determine his territory. It's going to determine the best location that he can dig his hole. He's going to defend his hole with that claw. The bigger the claw, they can force off the littler clawed crabs. Now they used to think that that claw is how the male attracted a female. He would sit out and wave that claw. They do this waving motion with the claw. And the female would come and choose which male's hole she was going to live in. They have since found that, at least with some species of fiddler crabs, the female is not attracted by the claw. She's attracted by the hole that he dug in the mud. And more specifically, she's attracted by the rain shroud, the hood that he digs over the top of his hole. So he digs a hole, and then he makes a little hood of mud. It's kind of like a gutter to divert fresh water from going into the hole. They like salt water, not so much fresh water. So they build this hood, and whoever has the best constructed hole with that rain diversion hood, that's what attracts a female. It's not the big claw. The big claw, so they used to call it the come hither wave when he would sit there and wave. Now they're saying it's the go away, this is my territory. So he uses that claw to ward off other males, not to attract the female. She's looking at how well he built his hole. And that's what is going to attract her. Now these crabs don't live very long, only about 1.5 years max, okay? So this guy's going to get a bit larger. He's only about 1 inch long right now, so he's going to get another probably 1/2 inch, and that's going to be it for the size. I don't know if you can see, but we talked about with other crabs. If you want to see our other episodes, go to meggspointnaturecenter.org. The Virtual Learning Center has all of our past programs archived. You can see he sometimes sticks his stalks up, and that's how his eyes are on stalks. He can actually see me even though I'm behind his shell right now. Someone's asking, does he have a name? We don't name all of the animals in the Nature Center, and a lot of the ones that do get names, it's really just so when they go to the vet. We usually don't use the names in public because we don't want people to consider these pets. These are all wild animals and they should really be in the wild. And somebody says it's all about the crib. Yes, it is. For the crabs, it's definitely about the hole that he digs. That's going to be the most important factor. Now, the fiddler crabs, most crabs are going to be scavengers. They're looking for food. They're eating bits of fish or whatever they can find. These crabs are more filter feeders. They're a very small crab, so they're filtering out detritus. Now, that's going to be a really good vocabulary word, and I think we've used it in other programs. But that's the organic matter that settles to the bottom. They're going to eat bits of plants. They do like to eat algae, so some of the seaweeds, and phytoplankton. So all of the microscopic plants that are floating around in the water, they're going to filter it out, and that's what they eat. What likes to eat a fiddler crab? So the main predators on the fiddler crabs are going to be larger birds like egrets and rails, which we have right here in the salt marshes around the Nature Center. They also may be eaten by larger crabs. The blue crabs like to eat them. Maybe a lobster, if their habitat overlaps, a lobster might eat them, larger crabs. And then some fish. There are some fish that will come into the salt marshes at high tide and try and eat them. They do hide in their hole, though. If anything disturbs them, they're going to go right into their hole. So if you've ever kayaked down a river along a mud flat and you see all the holes and all the crabs are out, as soon as you get near them, they all go into their hole. And that's their defense. I see a question, how did the fiddler crab get its name? It's really that very large claw. You guys should look this up online. Look up someone playing a fiddle. So if you see a guy with a fiddle on his shoulder and he's playing, that claw kind of looks like the big fiddle that somebody might be playing. So they called it a fiddler crab. I'm going to move out so it focuses in on him. All right, so it's really easy to tell the boys from the girls because the girls, both claws are small. Now, some people want to know if that claw, if it has to be on the right side or the left side, if that depends on the species. And it really doesn't matter. It could be on either side. If he happens to lose this big claw, if it gets ripped off by a predator or something, the next time he molts, the smaller claw will grow into the bigger claw, and the new regenerated claw will be the shorter one. So it can alternate side to side if they lose a claw. So again, crabs can regenerate lost body parts. So that's how you get the claw either being on one side or the other. It doesn't have to be on one side or the other. All right, let's take a look and see if we have any. Somebody's asking what they eat. So we were talking about the plankton. Can you tell how old he is? So really difficult to tell how old they are because they only live a year and a half. You can generally tell by the size. This one, I would say, is coming up on a year old. And then for the next year, they'll add that ½ inch of size. Let me scroll through here and see if we have any other questions. I'm really happy you guys are interacting with me because I get really lonely here at the Nature Center. So keep those questions coming. Keep on posting where you're from, too. I really like to see where everyone's from. All right. Not seeing very many questions up there. How much do the fiddler crabs sleep? that's a really good question, and I really don't know the answer to that. Crabs can be out of the water for pretty long periods of time. These are tidal crabs, so at low tide they're going to be exposed to the air. At high tide they're going to be underwater. I don't know if the entire time they're underwater, if they're sleeping, or if they are active. So that's a really good question. We'll have to see if anybody's done any research to see how much crabs sleep. I'm sure it's about the same as other crabs. Just because they have a hole that they live in, I don't think that means that they sleep longer. Look at that antenna. You can see the eye is, oh, he just brought it back in. All right. He isn't moving much. I guess he's comfortable with you. I think I already handled him to get him out and put him into this water before the show. And I think he's just used to, okay, not a whole lot he can do to escape from me, so he's just chilling out, waiting for the time to go back in the water. When he's in his tank, this is his tank behind me, he will sit on those clumps of mud and wave his claw around. Even though he's the only one in this tank, he'll still wave his claw. So he's still defending his territory, even though he's the only one in there. There actually might be a little tiny one. I thought I saw one the other day, but it's really hard to find them in here. What do they do in the winter? So most crabs move to deeper water in the winter, and then they move back into the shallow water. But they do, when they move to the deeper water, they bury themselves in the mud. So if you've seen our frog programs, it's kind of similar to the frogs. They bury themselves down in the mud until the temperature warms up, and then they're going to come out and become more active. Are we doing another animal at 2? Actually, at 2 o'clock today, I have a really special one. We haven't done this yet. I'm going to teach you how to play a Native American game. So I have a few really fun native games that we can do over the next few weeks, and we'll be doing one of those this afternoon. And I hope you enjoy it. I think it's fun. It'd be better if it were a rainy day, because most of these games are fun on rainy days. But there's one that we can do that we actually do outside. I think we'll do that one this afternoon. So really cool if you guys want to tune in at 2 o'clock and see the game. So for the rest of the week, we have lots of programs coming up. Our 11 o'clock programs are going to be about animals. This week we're doing the short-eared owl is one of the animals. I don't have a live one to look at, but we'll be talking about it. We're going to do a stargazer at the end of the week. So that's a venomous, electrified fish. It can produce an electric charge and inject venom. So I have to be really careful with that one. But we'll see what happens when I do that program. I've never been zapped by them, so let's cross our fingers and hope I don't get zapped this time. All right, we're going to put this one back in the water. Actually, let's bring this over, and we're going to see what happens. So I did talk about there are some crabs that swim. This crab doesn't swim. Let's see, there he goes. But you can see him wiggling his feet there as he went to the bottom. And now he's walking around on the bottom. So because this crab lives in a salt marsh, sometimes the water is going to be more salty than other times. So the salinity in a salt marsh can vary depending on how much rain we get or the time of the year, the tides, things like that. So they can survive the variation in salinity. They can be quite a bit more salty. Sometimes it's more salty than the sound, and other times it's a lot more fresh water than the sound, or less salty than the sound. Usually the salt marsh has less salt than Long Island Sound, though. All right. Any other questions? I don't see anything up there right now. I hope you guys are all enjoying these programs. I'm going to continue to do these programs. If anybody's interested in having a Zoom meeting or a Zoom program, we can do them with your groups in that platform. And we're going to be working on some other things. I hope that everybody tried the first challenge in the Great Backyard Pursuit. Really excited to do it myself. And we've got another one coming up this Saturday, so keep an eye out. You can go to nochildleftinside.org, I believe it is, or .gov. I always get that mixed up, and I'm going to have to check that. But you can see that on our website. It's all linked from the Virtual Learning Center at meggspointnaturecenter.org. I hope that you continue to like and follow us on Facebook and on YouTube. These programs are being put up on YouTube, and we're putting up new things on YouTube that are not on Facebook Live. So there are a few programs that we've done that you'll get to see on our YouTube channel. So I hope everybody continues to learn from these programs, and we'll just keep on doing them until we are able to open the Nature Center. Hopefully, in the near future, we'll be able to have some people in the building. But until then, keep tuning in at 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock from Tuesday to Friday, and we'll continue these programs. Until 2 o'clock, I will sign off, and I'll see you guys all at 2 o'clock with a Native American game.